Ilham.
Hello. Hi everyone, good morning. How are you? Hi. Izin ko saya sambung dalam bahasa Inggeris. Hi, my name is Jasmin Irisha. I am from UNICEF Malaysia, United Nations Children's Fund. Today I will be presenting on localizing climate narratives as an initiative under Youth Environment Living Labs, a joint collaboration between UNICEF and UNDP Malaysia. Can I have my slides, please? The next slide. So when we think about climate change, traditionally, this is the very first image that comes to mind. A polar bear stranded on an ice cap. Or a more vivid image or visualization is a very starving polar bear stranded on an ice cap. But what we know is that, or what we think we know is that climate change is so big, we don't know how it impacts us in our daily lives. Particularly, what does climate change look like on a Malaysian perspective? The next slide. Or do I have a clicker? Oh, sorry. There you go. So can anyone tell me where this is? Or has anyone seen this phenomenon before? Yes, I think the image credit is kind of like a giveaway. But this is a image that you can see if you look up dekat FRIM, Forest Research Institute of Malaysia. So my grandfather used to work in FRIM as a forester, and as a young kid, I used to follow him to the forest every other weekend. So Tok saya pernah bertanya kepada saya, kalau Jasmine pandang atas, nampak tak daun-daun tak bersentuhan? When you look up, do you notice that the leaves actually do not touch each other? So this is a crown shyness phenomena. This is where I grew up with. Shoria resinosa, that's the scientific name, or you can also say it's an emergent stories phenomenon. And what is happening here is essentially you see that at the canopy level, the leaves are not touching each other, which kind of gives the impersonation that they're kind of shy, right? That's the name crown shyness. And actually, this is only about, I mean, the forest and the trees that are happening, what you're seeing here right now, is only about 100 years old, which in fact is, for a fun fact, is not old at all. Like the young people present here today, the trees are very much youth-like as compared to other natural resources that you can find here in Malaysia. Our natural heritage, Taman Negara, is about 130 million years old. And this is where, you know, young people in Malaysia has a long way to go in terms of moving forward. And I noticed that when I was younger, like going into the forest, you drive in, you wind down the window, and you can feel as if you're in an air-conditioned environment. But nowadays, when you go back to the same location, it's not the same anymore. You can really feel the difference. The urban heat island phenomenon is real. It increases the surrounding temperature around you. So young people in Malaysia make up about 42% of the population. However, young people in Malaysia, even though they make up a very significant portion, they're not being adequately engaged in terms of decision-making processes. When UNDP and UNICEF Malaysia, in collaboration with EcoNights, a youth environmental NGO, ran a survey, ran a study in 2020, a national youth climate change survey, we identified that 92% of young Malaysians feel that climate change is a crisis. They acknowledge the severity of what is happening today. However, when we actually look at it in a deeper sense, it's a two end of a spectrum. On one end, you have young Malaysians who are really out there, who are proactively taking climate action in their daily lives, such as taking the public transportation, recycling. But on the other hand, we also have young people who are somewhat aware of what's going on around them, but they feel really, really helpless in terms of taking action. How many of you feel that way? You feel like, oh, there's so many things going on in the world. Climate change is one of them, but I'm just one individual. What can I do? Is anyone in here like feel that way? Do you? Because I sometimes still feel that way. So what we do is that we've identified all these pain points, all these problems. So how do we fill in that gap? How do we in turn address that issue? So here are the problems that we've identified. In Malaysia, we learned that one, we lack local narratives. Again, when we think about climate change, people still feel like it's too distant. You don't know how it impacts us in our daily lives. We are the awareness in terms of entry points of local action is actually still at a very minimum stage. Number two is that we have a lot of NGOs in Malaysia, and I myself have been actively involved in NGOs before, and we are very proactive in taking action, but sometimes we are very reactive. When a problem happens, we take action, and then we move on to the next problem and we take the next action. But the thing is that we do not do proper documentation or learning or sharing of experiences. Number three is the disparity between the arts and the science. Climate change is not just about the science anymore. It's about how you interrelate both arts and science, and how do you tell the stories. Technical solutions has to be followed by local narratives, local solutions. And number four is green careers. In Malaysia, people would think that, there is not much of a career within the green space, and I'm here to tell you that there's a lot of people in this room believes otherwise. About 10 years ago, when I enrolled myself in a degree in environmental science, my peers look at me very weirdly. They're like, Jasmin, what do you do in your degree? Do you go out and hug trees or something? There's still like a weird connotation or like a weird perspective of people studying environmental related courses. But nowadays, things have changed. So this is where YEL comes in. This is where the Youth Environment Living Labs comes in. YEL in Malaysia will strengthen the ecosystem of youth environmental leaders by localizing the climate and environmental narratives and futures. They do this by building capacity of young people through evidence-based advocacy, and also to give work exposure and skills building opportunities. Now, I'll talk about this in a greater detail in a bit. So we do this by putting together a one-stop center called the YEL Network Resource Hub, which really pushes forward two meaningful objectives. One is to inspire young people and two, for them to take action. As our resident coordinator mentioned earlier today, the Youth Environment Living Labs have put together about 250 youth entities that are focused on taking climate and environmental action. And through this resource hub, where you can search online or also scan the QR code earlier, it gathers environmental organizations, youth leaders, and also local solutions. And we do this through a very interactive manner. There is a portal through Google Earth. Again, you can scan this QR code. And this is specifically on the thematic area of sustainable lifestyle, with the topic of making waves, not waste. So what we do is we try to visualize where climate or environmental NGOs are based at in Malaysia, because if you notice, a lot of them are very concentrated or focused in the Klang Valley area. But what if you're from Perak and you want to take action there? What if you're from Sabah, from Sarawak, and you want to get to know more environmental NGOs that exist within the area? So through this very interactive Google Earth website, you can log in and then you can see through each location. Contohnya kalau dekat Penang, what other environmental organizations exist. And we plan to really expand this further on through our project under YEL. So we've also collected local stories, and again, climate change affects everyone, but they affect different population very differently. And young people are one of the most vulnerable population at the front of the climate crisis. So we compile local story to see how are local communities being impacted by the climate crisis, and also how the certain community take action against the climate crisis. And some of the stories that you may find within the portal, within the website, are one, the story that I just shared earlier, inspired by my grandfather, and how I then pursue a career within environmental or climate related field. And two is also a local story by our good friend Azmin Fatah, who is from Reef Check Malaysia and also Green Saporna based in Sabah. So there are different ways that young people can pursue a green career. And we want to make this as accessible as we can to everyone, including those who are not within access of internet connectivity. So you can also download our starter kit. It's in PDF format, or you can print it out, and it's available in both English and Bahasa Malaysia. And some of the initiatives that we're supporting as part of our Yale initiative is also the Cathedral Camp, as being mentioned in the opening remarks earlier by the Minister and also by our UN Resident Coordinator. So the Cathedral Camp aims to empower, to give political empowerment to young people. So if you're between the age of 18 to 34 years old, you're eligible for this. This has just been launched last week actually, and we are still taking participants for application for a couple of camps that we're organizing at the end of this month and also towards the next month. My colleague here, Fong, has been coordinating this from the UN side. So if you'd like to know more about it, please come and approach us after this. And also how we're contributing towards these camps is to give information and education towards climate change governance, and also addressing some environmental degradation issues in certain areas within the camp through political empowerment. And this is my last slide. It's a very short intervention session, but do keep up to date with some of the initiatives. We have a couple of exciting programs coming up. We have programs which gives out seed funding, seed grants to citizen science, which are focused on climate and environment. We have programs that focuses on skills building, mentorship, giving apprenticeship to green careers, and we're also expanding our Yale Network Resource Hub. So there's a lot of NGOs, youth leaders, and organizations present here today. If you'd like to be part of our journey, like to feature your stories within our portal at the UN platform, please come and approach us after this, and we'll be happy to talk to you. We have also the Yale launch and workshops coming up sometime in coming months. So please scan the QR code, be in touch with our website, and we look forward to your participation. Thank you.